Discover your leadership voice. This is workshop number 1 of transforming team communication. And as always, my goal is to unleash your full potential. Your full potential as a human being, but also as a team. We are all part of teams, no matter how big or small they may be. So how do we get the best out of our own lives, but also out of the lives of others? And so that's the goal of this workshop, transforming team communication. Like I said, this is workshop number 1. Number 2 is the power of your voice. 3, the art of collaboration. 4, optimizing team performance. And then number 5, team kryptonite. So that gives you some context of where we're at. And like I said, this is workshop number 1, discover your leadership voice. So this has worked for so many people, and that's one of the reasons I love this content, is it not only has helped me, it's unlocked who I am as a leader and helped me understand what it's like to sit across from me, but it has worked for so many other organizations as well. And I've seen it with my own eyes unlock people from where they're currently at and to take them forward into being better leaders and greater teams. So that's why I'm excited to share this content with you today. A couple of the added values that we've seen from the 5 voices is number 1, team collaboration. It has helped people understand each other better. And then from there, you can empower your team because you know your natural tendencies and their natural tendencies. So that is empowering for a team when we're all on the same page. Number 3, efficiency. How do we create a common language where we can speak to each other quickly and effectively? And that is so important. We've seen that as an added value for the 5 voices. Number 4, personal development with handles. Time and time again, I've heard about the 5 voices, that we've been through so many personality development tools before, but so I was worried this was just going to be another one. And what people find after experiencing the 5 voices is they find themselves remembering these tools, and it's so practical. They end up putting these tools into practice in their life. And we know that you can hear all the content you want to, but until you practice that content, that's where the real value is. And so that's what I love about the 5 voices. It's very practical, easy to transfer to other people. No matter where in the organization, you can learn these tools and apply them to your life. So without further ado, discover your leadership voice. So what is it like to sit across from you? Recognizing the characteristics of each of the 5 voices so you know what each voice means. Identify your personal foundational leadership voice. Build confidence in using your foundational leadership voice. And then commit to applying your leadership insights. There's going to be some insights at the end that if you will commit to applying, you will see value even in your work life, your home life tomorrow. And we all are excited about growing. We want to be better. And this is a great tool for you to grow in your leadership. So the big idea here is everyone speaks, but not everyone is heard. Sometimes we think we're being heard, but we may not be being heard quite like we think we are. So everyone speaks, but not everyone is heard. And we can understand how that can be a problem inside of a team. We need to hear from every voice. A couple of consequences from not everyone being heard. Teams function at less than 60% of their true potential. Team leaders rarely, if ever, hear the truth from their people. 82% of team members feel misunderstood or undervalued. Leaders undermine their influence every day without even knowing it. So the solution to these problems is getting everyone on the same page and everyone speaking up and being heard. And that's one of the goals with the 5 voices. What if every voice around your table was truly heard, valued, and appreciated? Imagine the work that we could accomplish if every person on the team was heard, valued, and appreciated. Imagine the enjoyment that people would get out of work if they truly felt like they were valued. So one of the main tools that we'll keep coming back to through each one of these workshops is the Know Yourself to Lead Yourself tool. And so what we have to understand about this tool is that it is a constant, ongoing process of getting better and understanding ourselves and therefore leading ourselves. So you'll notice at the bottom of the screen there, tendencies. We all have natural tendencies, things that we do maybe without even knowing it, but it's just almost built into our wiring. Those are tendencies. Well, those tendencies will form patterns, things that we see continue to happen over and over again in our lives that form actions. So our actions are dictated by those tendencies, and then we notice consequences. And that can be good consequences or negative consequences in our life, but it's based on those actions. And then those consequences are truly forming our reality. So whatever reality you're experiencing today, whether you like it or you don't like it, we can trace those all the way back to our tendencies. And tendencies, like I said, are natural. It's who we are. It's how we react to things. So knowing these things about ourselves gives us a leg up when we're trying to make an impact and influence other people. So knowing ourselves first is the key, and then from there we can lead ourselves. So that's the goal, and this tool gives us a very clear picture of what it looks like to grow as a leader. So the big idea, 5 voices. You can see each one here, starting with the nurturer there on the left side of your screen, and then creative, guardian, connector, pioneer. The only thing I would point out on this specific graphic is if you look at the voice volume, so each one of those bubbles there show the voice volume of each voice. And so what you're noticing is not voice volume as far as the actual volume or how much someone talks, but the forcefulness with how they use their voice. And so you can see the nurturer there is one of the less forceful voices, all the way up to the pioneer, who is the most forceful voice in being heard. And so just tuck that away for your knowledge as well on that graphic. And so a few assumptions that we want to make sure are clear up front. Number one, our voice is made up of all 5 voices. One is going to stand out more than the others, but our total personality will be made up of all 5 voices in a certain order. And so the order is what we'll be paying attention to today. Some voices are more natural to us than others. So these things are going to just happen naturally, and you'll want to focus on those because those are the ones that truly make up who you are, the ones that are natural to you. Number 3, maturity allows us to value the contribution each voice brings. And so the goal here isn't to speak all 5 voices fluently. We can't be who we are not, right? But maturity allows us to value each of the contributions that each of the voices make. So understanding them and then valuing them is truly maturity as a leader. For nature, nurture, and choice have all played a part. So we know that we are complex humans, and our nature, the way we were born, the way we were raised, nurture, and then at the end of the day, our choices. We all make choices to step up in leadership, to take certain jobs, and these choices can change the way our voice reacts or the way our voice ends up being. And so nature, nurture, and choice all play a part in your voice. Number 5, don't assume you know what someone else's foundational voice is. And so it'll be easy going through these. You'll think of other people in your life and you'll kind of put them in different contexts and different boxes, but be careful to share that with them because they may not see themselves the same way, and you might learn something about your friends or family or coworkers based on them identifying for themselves what their foundational voice is. Number 6, don't assume you know what each word means. And so just because you hear the word pioneer, it might be valued in our current society or in American culture, but it's not necessarily the same context. Another example is creative. Just because you're a creative voice doesn't mean you have to be working in the creative department or be an artist. And so make sure you pay attention to how we're defining each one of those voices. The other thing we're going to notice here is we want to rate ourselves on each one of these voices. So as I talk about each voice, you're gonna kind of take some personal identification here and kind of mark yourself, green, yellow, or red. When we say green about that certain voice, you really feel like that might be your foundational voice. It's a default pattern for you for communication and thinking. Yellow is, you're pretty sure it's not your foundational voice, but it's something that you value and you can easily access that voice. And then red is, it's clearly not your foundational voice and you find it hard to value and hard to access. So as you go down through each voice, make sure you're marking yourself and marking it green, yellow, or red. That way at the end, you can have a clear picture of what your foundational voice is and your voice order. So let's jump in, having said that, and jump into the nurturer. So the nurturer is the champion of people, relational harmony, and values. They value people. They are the ones who are always looking out for others and have that relational harmony perspective. They intuitively feel how an organization will react to a new idea. So before the idea is even launched, the nurturer has this sense of exactly how people are going to react to that idea. The mental picture that works really well for me is that of a spider on a spider web, right? No matter how far out a movement is made on that spider web, the spider notices it. It has those feelings that can feel, even on the very extremities of that spider web, they can feel that movement. And that's exactly how a nurturer is. They can feel the movement before everyone else. They also defend values. People will always come before profit. People will always come before profit. It's not that they don't value profit. They understand at the end of the day, we all have to make money, but they will always put a higher value on the people over the profit. They function as the relational oil inside teams and organizations. So you can imagine some of the sharper or more forceful voices, they have a way of being that oil so that those parts don't continue to rub against each other. They are that relational oil that makes the whole engine work and make sense and get along. And so the nurturer is obviously very important inside of an organization. They're pragmatic realists who ask, has this really been thought through? And so before they get everyone in the organization or the people that follow them on board with the idea, they want to make sure the idea works because they understand the value of human capital. They understand that by them asking their team to do something, they want to make sure it works because they know how much that means to the individual. If something doesn't work and they get frustrated, then everyone's going to point back to the nurturer and say, I thought you said this was going to work, and that's why we followed you. And so they are truly pragmatic realists when it comes to leading people. They take genuine delight in celebrating the achievements of others. Some people have to work at being team players, not the nurturer. It comes natural to them. They love celebrating other people and their achievements. Once again, they're natural team players, so they are able to see that very clearly when other people have brought value to the team. Some of the challenges you'll notice with a nurturer is they can become overly resistant to change and demonstrate passive aggressive tendencies. And so obviously this isn't a less healthy nurturer, but they can become resistant to that change, and they don't like that confrontation as much with people, so they can revert to that passive aggressive nature. And so they have to watch that. That's something maybe when they're hungry, tired, or just frustrated, they might lean into that negative part of their personality a little bit more. They rarely value the contribution they make. And so one of the challenges with nurturers is always to be reminding them, hey, we need your input. We love to hear from you. And to make sure you're valuing the contribution that they're making. And that is a healthy nurturer when they are valuing their contribution and realize how important it is to the team. So this is your chance. You can pause the screen if you want. Rate your voice. So green, yellow, or red. How do you feel about that nurturer? Did it feel like that foundational voice, like it was a natural way that you operate? Or is it more yellow, where it's not your foundational, but you certainly value it and you can access it? And then red, it doesn't vibe with who you are, how you feel about yourself. and you can find it hard to value or access at times. So take a minute and think about that. Green, yellow, or red on the nurturer. So if you need more time there, you can go ahead and pause, but I'm going to go and go forward on this infographic. You can see here the nurturer. This is just a snapshot of what the nurturer means. Champion of relational people, harmony, and values. They have to watch out for their fear of conflict and that tendency maybe not to speak out, and they can tend to be silent at times. You can notice the population there, 43%. So a large portion of our population is a nurturer. And then how to empower them. Let them speak first. Affirm their competence and the genuine value of their contribution. Keep asking the nurturer to speak up, that you want to hear from them. And that will certainly empower a nurturer. So there's the first voice. Number 2 is creative. The creative is the champion of future ideas, innovation, and organizational integrity. So that's the main idea of the creative. To get more specific, they are conceptual architects and love to think outside the box. And so there's a lot going on inside the mind of a creative. Think about that mental architecture, that conception, those conceptions that are happening in their mind. They're always thinking forward and outside the box. They function as an early warning radar system for teams, often seeing opportunities and dangers long before everyone else. So if you ask them 5-10 years from now, what do you think are some opportunities? What are some pitfalls that we might find ourselves in? They love that question. They feed off of that. And so obviously they're so important to an organization to have that early warning radar system. It keeps you from pitfalls, but then on the opposite side, those opportunities that come from a creative because they can forecast and see what might be on the horizon. It's so important to access that creative voice. They're never satisfied with the status quo. They inherently believe things can always be better. And so they're always pushing forward and trying to get better. They're never satisfied with the way things are. They want to keep moving forward. It's just part of who they are. If the vision is compelling, can't is not in their vocabulary. So creatives tend to find a way to make it happen if they're on board. So once they believe in the vision and they think that vision is worth it, they will make the thing come to pass. They know how to make it happen. And so that's very powerful for a team. They often struggle with the fact that people never seem to fully understand their ideas. So what you'll notice is when a group of creative voices get together, they just are vibing because they get each other. They kind of understand the unspoken and what the person's actually meaning by what they're saying. But they can struggle sometimes because their concepts are so much in their brain and so analytical most of the time and maybe complicated for other people that explaining those with words can be difficult. And things never end up quite as perfectly in the reality as it does in their mind. But they exhibit a strong social conscience and desire for personal and organizational integrity. So they really want the organization to adhere to their core values and have that integrity as a company. And that's really important to the creative. Going back a little bit to that internal perfectionist, the challenge the creative may have is they can often fail to celebrate the 90%. Because like I said, things aren't always as perfect in reality as they are in that creative's head. They have so much going on and they have high expectations for themselves and for other people that they can tend to not celebrate that 90%. And that can be discouraging for a team that a creative leads. So here on the creative, green, yellow, or red, I'll give you that minute there. You can pause the screen if you need more time, but I'll give you a couple seconds here. Maybe jot it down on a piece of paper as you go, and that is what you would rate that voice and then why. So just give some attention to that. Like I said, pause if you need more time. This is that infographic to kind of give you a snapshot of what the creative is about. They're a champion of future ideas, innovation, and organizational integrity. They have to watch out for that struggle to communicate effectively. They can sometimes have those idealist tendencies. 9% of the population, so a smaller portion. You can see the voice volume there. We're getting a little bit louder than the nurturer. And then how to empower them. Don't judge them on what they first say. Help them communicate their ideas and let them know that it's okay to be wrong sometimes. We know that when you're thinking that forward and there's so much going on in your mind, there's gonna be times where you're not right, and that's okay. We need those big dreams from you. We need to hear what you're thinking and what that forecast might be. There's the creative. And then moving on to the guardian, the third voice here. The guardian is the champion of due diligence, resources, and efficient systems and processes. So they're all about getting the work done and building those systems and processes. They have a relentless commitment to truth, always asking the difficult questions. If you want to understand a guardian, you have to understand that they want to get to the bottom of it. They want the truth, and they will ask the questions that get them to the truth. They will always seek to honor the past as teams look towards the future. And so they want to remember that just because we're moving forward doesn't mean that what we did before didn't work. And so they want to honor the past and make sure that we don't just zoom past opportunities or things that we did right in the past. And that's kind of the tendency of the guardian. They accept as personal the commitment to deliver projects on time and on budget. You can imagine the value that this adds to a team is getting things done in a timely manner and on budget. And so important for every organization to embrace the guardians on their team. They have the ability to detach decision making from personal sentiments. And so they are able to make the right decision even in the face of emotions and different personal sentiments. That they might have friendships in the room, but they're able to make those right decisions based on facts and the truth. And so it's very important to have a guardian speak up in your team. They're naturally risk averse, asking, is it worth the risk and investment? You'll hear a guardian talk a lot about a pilot project. Can we try this project out and see if it's going to work? But because, like the nurturer, before they get everyone on board with an idea, they want to know that this idea is going to work. They want to have some confidence that we're not just risking everything and making bad investments with people or resources. And so they want to make sure that things are going to work. They respect and value logic, order, systems, and repeatable processes. That's how their mind works. They want to make sure that we not only do it right today, but that we have a process in place that over time we can do this over and over again, and it will work time and time again. And so that is so important for a guardian. Some of their challenges: their desire for truth and right decisions can sometimes override the feelings of others. And so some of that positive that we talked about making those decisions and being able to make those decisions during difficult times, that can also be a challenge for them at times, because they want to make the right decisions and truth is so important to them that at times it can override the feelings of others. And you can imagine some of the challenges that creates for the guardian as a leader is if they don't value people and they're not in a healthy place, they can kind of run over people accidentally, but it's just a tendency that the guardian can have. They can be right and wrong at the same time. And that's a tool that we'll talk about here in the future, but they have to have that tone and tact. They have to recognize what their tone is, what their tact is, and is it the right time to bring this up? And so that can be a challenge and an opportunity there for the guardian. So now for the guardian, rate yourself green, yellow, or red. Give it some thought for yourself. Like I said, maybe grab a piece of paper, jot it down what you think your green, yellow, or red on the guardian, and then why. Pause the screen if you need a little more time, but we're going to keep moving. The Guardian, that infographic, is the champion of due diligence, resources, and efficient systems and processes. They have to watch out for that being risk averse, and they can sometimes be negative when they bring that excessive critique. And so they have to watch out for that. Once again, I'll point out the voice volume for you. It's getting a little bit louder. The population, 30%. And then how do you empower them? Welcome their challenging critique and commitment to due diligence. So welcome them into the conversation. Guardians, please ask your questions. We ask that you do it in the right way, but please, we want your questions. We need your perspective. And that will just empower and really enlighten a Guardian. So moving on now to the Connector. The Connector is the champion of relational networks, internal collaboration, and effective communication. So really important for our organizations, our teams, to embrace the Connector. They're persuasive and inspirational communicators. They can rally people to causes they believe in. They are passionate about connecting people. They're incredibly resourceful. Whatever we need, I can get it, or I have a source. And so they're great at connecting people's aspirations with the resources that are necessary to accomplish those aspirations. Extremely valuable, especially in the modern world where relationships are so vital to our work. They have the capacity to maintain a large number of relationships. They tend to gather people, and so they have a skill set in getting people together and having a large number of relationships. Now, that may not be a bunch of close friendships, but they have acquaintances throughout the community and in their lives that they're able to gather when they need to or when someone needs them. And so very inspirational and powerful inside an organization. They know how to connect with people and their aspirations. So they're natural marketers. If you talk to a Connector about selling, they don't know what you're talking about because they just naturally talk about what they love and what they're passionate about. So selling to them, it's almost a foreign concept because they know that they are passionate about things and they're just naturally sharing those things. So they're natural marketers in that way, and they're really powerful because it comes from their heart. The Connector is extremely good at marketing. They enjoy appreciation and credit for making key connections, and many of us do, I would say. But they obviously value those connections, and so they want to continue making those connections, and they want you to see the value in the connections that they're making. And that's so important to them to see those connections work out for people. Challenges. Their people-pleasing tendencies mean they can struggle to bring effective challenge at times, where there are they love people so much and they have that passion for connecting and relationships that when it comes to bringing challenge, they can struggle because they may not want that confrontation because they like people so much. And so you might notice that with Connectors, they have that challenge at times. They're often struggle to hear or engage fully with critical feedback. So if you think about a Connector, just the way they're wired, when someone brings them feedback, they can tend to make it feels personal to them, right? Where everything about them, it's who they are. They're natural marketers, like I said, but when you shut down an idea for a Connector, it feels very personal. And that could be for all of us. And once again, this is more in the negative. So the Connector, when they have some challenges going on or they're not as healthy as they should be, they can struggle with that feedback. So green, yellow, or red on the Connector. How do you feel about this one? Does it feel foundational, or does it feel like something that's not as accessible? I'll give you a couple seconds and then once again just pause if you need more time. So here's the infographic for the Connector, the champion of relational networks, internal collaboration, and effective communication. They have to watch out for interpreting that challenge of their ideas as personal. And so they have to be careful of that. It can feel like a personal attack, like we mentioned. 11% of the population, so a little bit smaller than the Guardian. Voice volumes getting higher. So what you'll find with a connector is typically they will be heard. They're not afraid to speak up, and they tend to be a little bit more forceful with their language and their approach. How to empower them? Give them time to share their ideas, listen to those passions, and appreciate before you critique. Appreciate before you critique a connector. It's very important. So the last voice you'll notice here is the pioneer. The pioneer is the champion of strategic vision, results focus, and problem solving. They're all about solving those problems. They approach life with an anything is possible attitude. If there's a challenge, the pioneer cannot wait to face that challenge. So they're excited about life and about the opportunities that are out there. Visioning and shaping a scalable future is always the highest priority. And so they are building a foundation on the ground, no matter how small that building is at the time. They are building a scalable, huge foundation in their work. And so they are planning for a skyscraper. Every project is going to go global, worldwide. It's the way they're built. It's the way their mind works. They want everything to be scalable. And what the possibility is endless in a pioneer's mind. Their strategic military thinking makes them incredibly effective at aligning people, systems, and resources. So imagine playing chess. The pioneer's mind is always working, trying to figure out how to get the advantage. Because of that, like you see, they can struggle to relax sometimes. So that mind, it's hard to shut that mind off once they're in that mode where they're playing chess and trying to make it work out with that strategic military thinking. So winning is a massive driver, as you can imagine, for the pioneer. They hate to give up and will drive their team long after others would have given up. That can obviously have positive implications and then negative implications at times, where they could push their team too hard. But what strength a pioneer can pull, or the people on a pioneer's team can pull from the pioneer, because the pioneer just believes it's going to happen and they keep going forward and that they want to win, and see people can borrow from that inspiration. But the pioneer does have to be careful not to run people over or to push people too hard. They're powerful communicators using logic and rationality to provide an attractive and compelling vision of the future. They love talking about the future. They love planning and always pushing forward. That's a natural tendency for the pioneer. Some challenges the pioneer faces: they can often appear arrogant with a me-focused agenda. And once again, we're going into the negative. So this may not even be on purpose, but this can be a tendency of theirs, is they can appear me-focused. Because they're so passionate about the direction they're going and where they want to go and what their vision is, they can sometimes feel like it's all about them. Like I said, it may be unintentional, but it's still a feeling that people get with the pioneer. They can quickly dismiss the contributions of those they don't believe to be competent or experienced. So if they don't see you as competent or experienced, then they can dismiss pretty easily the contributions that you're making because they don't see it as valuable. And so that's another challenge the pioneer faces. So think about the pioneer: green, yellow, or red. Take a couple minutes there and consider how you feel about the pioneer for yourself and why. So here's the infographic for the pioneer. They're a champion of strategic vision, results focused, and problem solving. They have to watch out for a lack of sensitivity at times. They can be unwilling to listen, and like I said before, they can be perceived as arrogant. The voice volume is the highest of the volume. That means they're the most forceful of all 5 voices. And then the population, 7%. So a small portion of the population are pioneers. How do you empower them? Don't worry, they empower themselves. Just affirm their competence. So you'll see a pioneer start melting when their competence is continued to be questioned. So they need that confidence in their competence. And so when you value that, they light up in that way. So we're gonna put it all together now. You can take a couple notes on exactly your voice order. So what we want to do is think about your greens, your yellow, and reds, and just kind of put it in order now. And this is important because your foundational voice will be there at the top. That second voice will influence your first voice quite a bit. So a pioneer creative, for example, will be quite a bit different than a pioneer guardian. And so that can change the aspect. So think about your your foundational voice, that first voice, that thing that stood out more than the other voices. Write that in that first slot. The second one, you felt it, you could access it pretty easily, but it really felt secondary to that foundational voice. And then as you can see, those yellows, 3, 4, if those things didn't feel as accessible, the way I described it didn't feel quite like you, but you definitely felt some tendencies there. You can put those in the yellow. And then the red, that fifth one is maybe you've learned to value that fifth voice, but it doesn't come easily in your life. And so that would be a natural fifth voice there. So go ahead and take a few minutes and write down 1 through 5. Once again, if you have questions about this, please ask them. This video will be up on Facebook and on YouTube. So use the comments section to ask any questions you might have about your voice. We've done this with lots of teams, so we have some insight on that might be helpful for you as you're determining your voice order. So important to understand ourselves, to have that self-awareness so that we can be the leaders we want to be. But knowing ourselves is the first aspect of being a great leader. Know yourself to lead yourself. This is the last portion that I want to talk about here is for the voice that you selected, your number one foundational voice, I want you to select 2 of these 8 things. If nurture is your number one voice, your foundational voice, select 2 of these statements that you're going to be working on in your life, something that you can take away today and start practicing right away. And so these are very practical, especially for your voice, whatever voice you decide on for your foundational voice. Select 2 of these and work on those things. Own it. Make sure it's practical. Like I said, this stuff is just content and it will only help you as much as you practice it. And so this is an opportunity to be very practical in understanding and owning your voice. So I'll go through these slowly and you can see there the nurturer, select 2 of these. And then the creative, if your foundational voice was the creative, select 2 of these. Once again, you can pause it. I'll go a little bit faster here to wrap up the video. The creative. And then the guardian, select 2. If you felt like your foundational voice was that guardian, these are simple tools, simple statements to help you gain that self-awareness. Connector, choose 2 of these 8 that you're going to take and own even today. Then for the pioneer, choose the 2 that you really want to own and focus on in the next 24 hours. So once again, capture those 2 key actions on your development plan. Choose the one which is most relevant to you today. You can share with your friends. Please share in the comments. Let me know kind of what you want to work on, what that development looks like for you, that personal development plan. It helps me maybe bring some accountability, ask you about it, and I would love to be part of your growth. And this is about helping each other grow. What does it look like to take some ownership as a leader, understand yourself better, and then understand the people on your team so that we can know each other and then ultimately know ourselves so we can lead ourselves. Thanks so much for watching, and tuck away those 5 voices and that order that you came up with. I'll be shooting more videos soon to continue going through these workshops, but hopefully this is a way for you to start working on yourself, an easy way to start owning your personality and be able to understand yourself better, have that self-awareness so you continue the path forward of growing yourself, growing your team, and being a more impactful leader. Thanks so much for watching. As always, I'm here to help unleash your full potential. I want you to grow as a leader and I want you to understand yourself better and understand those around you. You can visit my website at jdouglasw.com for more information about the 5 Voices or other coaching that I do. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.